Staying with us. Many have said that Nigerians are one of the most religious people in the world. And because of our continuous belief in our continuous approach in shelving things of real life issues, we usually try to shelve them for the spiritual part of it because we believe that the spiritual controls the physical. And that's what we've been taught. And that's what we believe in. However, issues have been raised in people's decision on seeking either medical care at the right time or truly activating their faith. There's that line that we need to understand how to educate Nigerians on choosing the right approach in different areas. As Christians, for example, we believe in faith, we believe in trusting God, but sometimes medical science will tell you, in this situation, you must seek medical attention. There have been different stories going on social media where a very popular minister of God was talking about how she almost had a miscarriage, and she was spotting, and then her husband came in, of course, activated faith, and he told her clearly that she cannot have a miscarriage because he believed and trusted that God would save the baby. And she went right back into the kitchen to cook. And then that message that usually would inspire many people to activate their faith, others have interpreted that as saying that we are reiterating the need for Christians or anybody to have a potential medical issue, and instead of them going to church, instead of them going to the hospital, they rather continue, activate their faith, or believe that the pastors or God will heal them. That's on one hand. There's the other story of another woman who said that her aunt had cancer, and she refused to go to the hospital. In fact, she hadn't been properly diagnosed, so she wasn't trusting God for a miracle and kept using the anointing oil from the pastor, from God, trusting that she'll be healed. And one day, her mother had to go in and barge in and push the door open, say, you cannot just stay here. You have to seek medical help. At that time, she was very frail. Took her to the hospital. Thank God she was treated, but within a year, she had died because she had breast cancer. So these are situations where we need to discuss, what are your options? What are your thoughts on this? How do we decide where to activate our faith, which we believe in, and where do we say it's time to seek medical attention? That's our conversation, because Nigerians and our people continually need reorientation, education, and enlightenment in various areas of life. Let's call, you can call us on our screen, 0812705367, 09139076948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. Let me come to you. I mean, we've all faced these scenarios where, we truly believe that God is the healer and is the ultimate healer, and that's the truth, But some will say that this same God have also equipped the doctors to treat. So we should also seek that as one of our options. What are your thoughts? Let me start with you, Tope. At what point do you think that we should seek medical attention versus activating our faith?
I don't even know. I don't think there's a line in between. So for me, I go to a church that my pastor is very rational about taking advantage of technology that God has given. It's a God-given gift to take advantage of technologies. But there are several testimonies people have shared. Someone will say, somebody said I wasn't pregnant, it was fibroid, I did not remove the fibroid, and I gave birth to a baby girl. I would have removed the baby girl. We hear this testimonies. Somebody is bleeding, and I put my hand on my stomach, and the bleeding stopped, and then I gave birth to a child. So after I had my twins, I waited 3 years, and I said, I'm ready to, I took out the family planning. Even before taking it out, I prayed. I started eating healthy, took out family planning, prayed, named my child, prayed, and then I got pregnant. So I felt like divine.
Yes.
And as I got pregnant, all the symptoms, I was vomiting, which is my usual. I could not eat. I was so frail. Perfect. We'll soon get over it in first trimester. So I went for scan at 12 weeks or thereabouts. And they said, there's a sac, but there's no baby. And I was like, no. I removed the family planning. I prayed. I have been eating healthy. I have symptoms. He said it's called blighted ovum, that they would advise I do evacuation. I took the report. I said, this is not my report. This is not the report. You know when they say in church, whose report would you believe? I will believe the report of the Lord. So, and we have a pregnancy fellowship in my church. I went to fellowship, and there are several testimonies of fellowship. So I prayed, and I was still having symptoms. I said, let me go and do a stronger prayer. So I went to MFM, booked a room, sat down in the room and prayed, quoted all the scriptures quotable. Right inside the premises of MFM, I started spotting. Because I was still thinking, at least I'm not seeing blood, so the pregnancy is there. My dear sisters and sisters in the Lord, I spotted all the way home, went to the hospital and had the evacuation done. And a few months after, I got pregnant again and had my baby, Samuel. Okay. So I realized that sometimes, and at a point in that praying and all of that, and I saw blood, I just had to tell God, like, see, you are still God. If this blighted ovum comes, if I see the blood, you will still remain God in the situation, and I would just go to the hospital because I started feeling serious stomach cramps. But I allowed faith I was using faith and all of that. And so somebody would say, I did not have enough faith. I've shared the story somewhere. Somebody was like, your faith was not strong enough. If your faith was strong enough, you would have been able to overcome. And people will start victim shaming the person who is going through a challenging health situation. It is extremely bad for someone for God to have given us the intelligence to produce technology, produce medical interventions, and we would not take advantage of it, and we lose lives because we are forming. I am trusting God. God has given us technology. I would say take advantage. Yeah,
I mean, let me come to you, Mary, because these are hard conversations to have, especially as a Christian. When you know that you have to trust God in the most. I have also heard testimonies. I have an aunt. She's probably even watching. She had a set of twins without a womb, and she has shared it publicly. Her womb was removed.
So what?
So miracle. She had a set of twins. I mean, it's public. I mean, she's been on the show. She's been on my IG live, and she's somebody a lot of people know. And she had the twins, and I was there with her, and those boys, the boy and the girl, they are grown now. They are 20s. They are older now. So we've seen miracle happen. It's happened. So when we see that, we trust. Even the most difficult decisions, in situations that God will do it. But where do we know when to seek medical intervention?
See, this question you have asked me is the hardest because, like you, I have seen miracles happen. There are miracles that have happened in my life. And, when you see that, then it feels like you're doing something wrong when you say to people who now have faith over something that in your own mind you're thinking, why can't you be rational about it and go to the hospital? Because they can even use your own miracle to say, but this happened for you. You have talked about it before. But I will still say, let's, in a matter of health, go to the hospital. And I also believe that God is in science and in technology. I also feel that that's another type of miracle. And I know that even in hospitals, miracles happen. But don't be at home and refusing all medical attention because, you have faith. See, for me, it's a heavy topic to discuss. I remember then my mom used to have this car. I've forgotten, we even had a name for the car. And sometimes this car will just pack up. And my mom will lay hand on that car and the car will get up, will start. And we laugh now because then my mom had minimal resources. But now she has more resources. All she has to do is just all these mechanically come and take this thing away. I mean, that's another form of miracle. But so then, is it that really that the car was really gone? Maybe he still had some juice and she just assumed that her prayer worked. But what if it's her prayer that worked? Because God saw, that this woman, there are just too many things on her plate right now. This car cannot be a problem right now, and I've sorted it out. So I think for everyone, just do what you strongly believe in. The one thing that comes to conversations like this is that in hindsight, we say, you should have known better. You should have just gone to the hospital.
But you see, there's a part where maybe something happened to you. You got sick, right? And you go to the hospital. But in a situation where you trust, you know that this is a demonic attack.
Right.
this one is not Konshojulason, as the Nigerian Yoruba says. Every one small headache, Konshojulason. I know somebody, every small thing like this, somebody is attacking somebody. You know, there's always one demonic. So in this situation, you know that it's not about medical help. It's not what the doctor is going to give you, because sometimes you go to the hospital, they give you all the medication, they give you all the diagnosis, and yet the person is still sick. But you know that there's some problems. It is through prayer and fasting. It is through certain kind of things you must do to get healing. That's the reality. YK, let me come to you. I know, this is still very, it's in your purview. But
This conversation, I will just break it down like this. The Creator made everyone in the Creator's image. So we are like the image of the Creator.
That's the Bible, yeah. I think what's Bible?
It's your Bible, yeah.
I'm just telling you that you're quoting your Creator from the Bible.
That,
but go ahead.
This is what you believe, and I've quoted it for you. When you take your child, you know, to your child that doesn't know about God, you are God to your child, because you are the be-all and end-all of that child's life. And you take your child to school, what do? You leave him with the teacher, him or her with the teacher. The child will be crying, no, mommy. You must go and you will study that study. I will come and pick you later. So you have given the person that has the power to teach your child how to teach your child. The same way the Creator has given the doctors that knowledge. Go and study. Go. So when you are sick, go to the doctor. You are not going to, that's not the work he gave the pastors. He gave the pastors the work or to help you spiritually, yes, to help you to keep your faith. So, and to be faithful to whatever religion you believe in, whatever religion.
That's wisdom, YK. And I think but the pastors too are equipped to help with deliverance when there's a demonic attack. Because usually demonic attacks usually come in the form of illnesses. But we'll talk about that after the break, because I know this is a very difficult conversation to have, because we're all Christians and we're believers here. So we're still discussing miracles versus medical science, and that's the conversation we're having, because the truth is that miracles do happen. I mean, I have been, trust me, I am a living testimony of several miracles. I remember when I wanted to have children, you know, and wanted to have we had our first child. So we were trusting God for a set of twins. And I just wanted twins. And my husband also wanted twins. So we just didn't really talk about it. And then we went to Daddy's, I think it was Daddy's birthday. I can't remember what year it was. Daddy Gio's birthday. And it was during that period, he was saying, babies, praying for babies. And I lifted my hand with my husband. I said, Father, Lord Almighty, I want a set of twins. I didn't know what he was praying for. I didn't know, he didn't know what I was praying for either. And after the prayers, I asked him, what are you praying for? He said, I'm praying for twins. I said, oh, that's what I prayed for too. And miraculously, the next year, we had a set of twins. So I trust, that's a miracle. That's a miracle. But now we're talking about medical science. Now, medical science is now, where even though you're trusting God for a miracle in a certain situation, the question is that, is going to the hospital the same as not trusting God again?
Yeah, so that what you just said, that is the real problem. Many people feel like once I go to the hospital, it means I don't trust God, that I'm seeking other alternatives. That's wrong. God performs miracles through medical science. Like, for miracles, the fact that you are healed through using a pill is a miracle. There are miracles through medical science. Miracles happen in several ways. People do IVF, and the IVF has a high failure rate. Yet, the fact that yours went through is a miracle. So, medical science itself is a miracle. God gave it as a miracle to us. People were dying of malaria until somebody performed a miracle of finding about quinine. And then the miracle now became, we've watered down the miracle. But at a point in time in the world, quinine was a miracle. The fact that herb could cure and avoid death was like, this is miraculous. You have performed the miracle. God has sent you to us.
Let me take this call from Pastor Charles from Soshomolu. Good morning, Pastor Charles. Pastor Charles, are you there? I think I lost him.
Yes. Okay, so I think one of the reasons also people struggle with faith or miracle and science is that we have heard people say the people that perform, that do all this, that have created all these advancements in science and technology are not even Christians. They don't even believe in your God. So you are now taking your own faith that you believe in God to the hands of those that don't even believe in your God. So that's where the dilemma is. Like I'm leaving those who believe in God to those who do not believe in God because they have something else. And so we think about it as when even us as Africans, when they say, you say you're a Christian, but you're going to go and cook something in a pot and bow before, you know, a shrine. But someone sent a message, says, faith is also believing that science will work for you. After all, we've seen it fail. It says, key verse, Jeremiah 8:22. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then is there no healing for the wound of my people? And because of their unbelief, he couldn't do any mighty miracles amongst them. So just like Dr. has said, if you believe, your faith also would allow for science to work for you. After all, science, they will deploy all the scientific things and you still not work for something.
Let me share you a funny story. So when I got pregnant for my twins, I saw my husband were trusting that there were 2 boys.
Okay.
So we prepared the names Michael and Gabriel. So we're so excited to have 2 boys. We trusted God that 2 boys. We went to my aunties that had 2 boys. We asked them to lay hands on my tummy. There are 2 boys. I went to church. Pastor laid hands. You know, we did all the Christian things to do, trusting God, praying. So when the sex, I know after a few months, you can now check the sex, the doctor said, it's a boy and a girl. We said, we reject it in Jesus' name. God, we reject. We kept rejecting it. When it was, the doctor told us, boy, he said we rejected it. So when it was about a month to the delivery, I was just going for a checkup. Because after the first time we heard that it's a boy and a girl, we didn't ask again. We don't want to know. We just don't ask any doctor anything. Let's just trust God that 2 boys, trusting 2 boys. So when it was like a month to, we're hoping that by then God will have done the miracle. So I said, sir, so what is a boy and a girl? Well, is it 2 boys? He said, sir, is it 2 boys? He said, no, it's a boy and a girl. He said, no, sir. After that, I reject it. Sir, it is 2 boys. He said, ma, you can reject it all you want. What me I'm seeing is a boy and a girl. I said, sir, I am also telling you that God has told me that it's 2 boys. So don't tell me the report I don't want. I was there fighting with the guy. Until when the babies now came, we had prepared Michael and Gabriel. So we're ready for, so first child came Michael. Waiting for Gabriel.
And then you had Michelle.
You know, Gabriella.
So in fact, when the baby was coming, when I was a girl, I had to call mommy. Which name are we going to give this one? Because then I gave us Michelle. But the point is that sometimes we trust God to the point where we think that, but we're not God's mind. We don't know what God has in store for us. So we keep thinking that it is what we want, and God would give us.
So you have been talking about your miracles. I Googled the Nigerian doctor, Dr. Olayinka Olutoye, the trailblazer who performed the radical operation on an unborn fetus in America. That is what you call a miracle.
That's a miracle.
That can be.
For the mother of that baby, he had a rare disease, and the doctor performed that miracle on that. She will forever say it is a miracle. And I think that the Creator, the forces, used him to perform that miracle.
Okay, let's wrap up on this. Let's take the comments and let me take a call. Okay, let me take this call. I'll come to Yakub. Are you there?
I'm there live.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning to everyone in the studio.
Good morning.
I think we are talking about religion, spirituality, and health. Mariah, I think earlier you mentioned attack, if I don't make a mistake, or demon or something. You see, you can get miracle from anywhere. It is not particular, it is not still down to church or to mosque alone. I have, let me share experience with you this morning. Some time ago, I left my house in the morning to my working place. Getting there, after like 2 hours, I don't feel okay. I feel like, what is wrong with me? And I said, okay, maybe I have a sleepless night that I needed to sleep. I go back home to go and have a sleep. I got back home, I couldn't sleep. Morayo. I said, okay, what next? I went to one notable hospital in Dr. here. I wouldn't like to mention the name. So one big hospital here. One getting there, the doctor said that he needed to admit me, and then I was admitted in that hospital. I spent 1 week. The second week, what is wrong with me? It was not there's not any changes. It was to work. And I called the doctor. What is really wrong with me? The doctor, you know, how they are doctor now, he brings all this big drama. I said, okay, what did I need to do? You know that I now call one of my friends. Come, I've been sick for the past 2 weeks. And then I'm here in hospital. There's not any changes. He said that I should give him like 2 or 5 minutes. After this guy called me back, he said, what are you doing in hospital? It's better you left that hospital now immediately. I said, okay, I called my brother. I couldn't even move. If I want to eat myself, I couldn't see. Anytime I want to eat myself, my eyes will blind. You get it? So I moved from that hospital. I got home. Do you know that my friend now said something? Something like looking like a powder. Morayo, I'm heading to something. He now told me I should use that powder like this. But when I applied this very particular powder thing, I don't know what is made of that powder. It is like that powder is what makes what is wrong with me. And then immediately after I use it, within 1 hour, what is wrong with me for over 2 weeks that doctor cannot be able to ascertain my illness. Didn't vanish. That is part of miracle. And then I pray, the prayer lead me to where I made a call.
Thank you, Yaku. So that powder worked, right? What he said. But see, now that brings me to another conversation where our herbs, our natural offerings here in Africa can also help us. Yes, and that's part of medical science, because even the medical science, some of them depend on they depend on the herbs from all over the world to help heal people. But the point is that there are Nigerians who still believe that medical science should be the last resort. Their first point of call, first is the church or is the religion or the mosque. After that is the religious body, the traditional healers. That's the next one. They say the tesalebo. The tesalebo, as in once the tesalebo doesn't happen, you now take it to medical science. Tesalebo is
they will pursue
you use the local traditional means. Because so we are here talking as if, you just go to the hospital. Many people don't just go to the hospitals.
I would have thought it was the other way around. That people will first go to the hospital, then when the hospital cannot explain it, then they label.
I will give you my sister's experience. We did medical, and the doctors, as I've said many times here, they did rubbish. And we now took her to a herbalist after. And he said he couldn't do anything. He said because they had already cut her open. So there was nothing he could do. And he sent us away. So maybe that is why some people try the medicine as the last option.
Yes.
Because sometimes when...
There's a principle to do the traditional one.
Yes.
So you don't want to have messed up with that principle to get there.
Let me take Pastor Charles. Good morning, Pastor Charles. You're live. Hello?
Good morning.
You're live. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. I want to contribute to...
Please do.
Discussion this morning. Yeah, I want to summarize it. Yeah, I want to summarize it this way.
You're listening to yourself on TV. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. Don't demonize doctors and don't make doctors your God.
Okay.
Right?
You're listening to the TV. He's not used to calling. When you call in, talk to me directly, not the TV. TV is delayed.
So I like what he said. Don't demonize doctors and don't make them your God. They are a tool. They are a useful tool that God has provided for us. It's like saying, when people talk about it, it's like saying I don't want to drive a car because in the Bible times people were using horses, or I don't want. They were walking on their feet. The truth is, technology has been researched to make our lives easy. God did not give us a table. He gave us trees. God didn't give us clothes. He gave us leaves, and we now use the leaves to create do cotton, and then we made clothes and created fabrics. So for everything we were given in raw form, our job was to create miracles that would have been a big deal then. Clothes would have been a big deal then, and then it now becomes a normal thing. Let's take advantage of science and...
Right, we're going to wrap up now. Let's take a few quick comments and we wrap up on this.
Yes, HOB Bam Badi says, April 2000, while in Bible school at Wolf B, Winners Chapel, my Benz 250 ran out of fuel and I was very rich, meaning Nigerian way of saying I wasn't rich. I dipped my finger in water, I had a drop of blood of Jesus water into the fuel tank, moved my car with faith. I used the car for 1 full week. That's his own miracle. And Yaro says there's a connection between your beliefs and your sense of well-being. Positive beliefs, comfort and strength gained from religion, meditation,
when your car runs out of fuel,
and prayer can contribute to well-being.
Yes.
It may even promote healing.
Sorry, Miriam.
Yes.
We will just drive a...
That's his
The
goal.
things of God, the things of God is
They
like
don't have work
foolishness
here
to those
again,
who
no.
don't believe.
Yeah.
The things of
That
God
was
are like
the
work
scripture.
in
like
Nigeria
foolishness
again.
to those of you that don't believe. We understand, and we don't expect you to understand.
I'm believing with all of you. But all of you like this.
Don't buy
when you are
fuel
going
again.
home, do not buy petrol again. In fact, NNPC is null and void now.
That's not how miracles work.
Ah.
Yeah.
Miracles is supposed to surprise and shock people. It's not about how
meant
it
to
will
be like
go.
the system.
Going back
Yes.
to what Toolz said, let's not forget what Toolz was saying, because Pastor Mrs. Oyedepo's testimony was valid. And what Toolz was also saying is that there are a lot of women that will listen and say, okay, once I'm bleeding, even though I'm bleeding, instead of me to start rushing to spend X amount of money in the hospital, because cost is another factor. Cost. Miracle is free. Cost is another issue that I'll say, I don't want to go to the hospital. Father, I am believing that this bleeding will stop and my baby will still be alive. So that's where Toolz is saying that some people who should ordinarily automatically go to the hospital wouldn't, because they want to also believe. And so that's the real conversation. I don't want us to really trivialize this conversation. It's a real conversation, because shouldn't I trust my mother in the Lord's testimony and hold on to that testimony for my own testimony?
So let me tell you, what we're afraid to say here is that there's no how you believe in miracle and then believe and faith and also believe that there's the science and going to church. You have to choose.
But
That's the
You have, that's the thing, and many of us don't want to make that choice or make it publicly. We don't want to say the fact that is, I would rather go to the hospital. I trust the hospital because there is science, there's fact, there's things that have shown data that has shown over time that this has worked over and over and over again. A miracle is your own interpretation. Maybe if I were to put it, a scientist was to look through it, he could have explained that spotting wasn't really spotting. Maybe you had a nick somewhere and happened. There are just so many reasons. But if you now go and say, I am going the way of faith and miracles, then there's no how you can also believe
Miriam, do you know
that you just jump to the church, to hospital.
If you are having a miscarriage and you go to the hospital, they will send you home. They will tell you that there's nothing they can do.
Okay.
Because once you're having a miscarriage, you will have that miscarriage. They will send you home. I know, because my daughter has had. If the baby now stays, yes, you can call it a miracle. Because medically, there is nothing. If you're having a...
Okay, YK, what of the part where, just like going by what Miriam said, if I say I'm going to go by the miracle part, and I stand by it, I know there's a medical option, and I choose to stand and activate my... No, wait, hear me out. If I say, you know what, I choose to activate my faith and trust, whatever happens, baby survives, baby doesn't survive, I trust that regardless, the will of God will prevail. So don't fault me for saying I don't want to go to the hospital to save this baby. I want to go, I want to believe and activate my faith. If God says my baby, fine. If God doesn't say my baby, so be it. That was not his will. And I stand by that. Isn't that something also acceptable? Can the state therefore prosecute me for not going to the hospital because to save that child. I mean, these are things that we see abroad
Many
where
children don't allow children get blood transfusion because of religion and the child dies.
Yes.
People that they could have just given them a liter of blood would have saved their lives. And then you say, my religion
so
doesn't
you allow,
permit it.
so that's somebody's right. It's your right to choose the religion you want to believe in. It's your right to say, I want to go by my faith. I don't want to go medical. So can we therefore respect people's choices that this person does not want blood transfusion? Respect it and let them be.
Please, Adiola Kazib says, I nursed wound on my leg for 5 years when I was in Nigeria, thinking it was a spiritual attack. Then I went to the UK and the wound healed within 2 weeks.
What healed it?
I don't know. Fresh air.
You see, that's why I brought miscarriages. It's a different if you need a blood transfusion. And you say, oh, I'm not going to do the blood transfusion because I believe. And then the person now loses their life.
Yeah.
Or the child loses their life. And then
It was their choice.
because you have chosen, and then you start going, God, why did you do this to me? No, it's God's wish. No, it's not God's wish to kill your child.
Exactly.
It was your neglect.
Exactly.
So we have to, let us, please, break it
There
down.
are many perspectives.
But
And
you
we
know,
must get it.
but you know that
That's a valid
scenario,
perspective.
Yes.
but that scenario, I've heard of scenario where people would go the way of science and medicine,
So we have
and
to-
then and then maybe you lose someone.
Yeah.
What will happen is people will say, but you did not pray about it. If you had prayed this
Yeah, we
way,
prayed,
I'm
we fast.
just saying you did not fast.
God
You
is in
unbelievers,
medical
that's what
science.
happens because you don't trust in God.
Let's go on a break. I wanted to wrap this thing up because I don't think we can. So wrapping up on this topic, let's take a few comments on social media. Yes, Mariam.
Busolami Ogundoli says, I suffered with diabetes for years, believing God for divine healing. Daddy Gio laid hands on me, but by my faith, just as Mariah believed for twin boys, was that I will be healed divinely. But God did my miracle through medical science, 2 organs transplant within 3 months on waiting list. That's how he got his own miracle. Emmanuel said, okay, you would
No,
like
I was going to talk about Nima called us during the break.
Yes, she was talking about her own miracle too. Yeah, she had thought that she was going to lose. In fact, she had lost a lot of blood, almost looking like a baby blood. So she, in her own mind, she had lost the baby, and then she had to go to the hospital, where she was put on bed rest for a few months. Eventually, the baby came.
So the miracle
So
happened.
in the hospital, her own miracle happened in the hospital. Then she was, even though she wasn't praying about it. It just so happened that God just saved her through the. So miracles can come directly through the medical science, through from God through the medical science. That's how
Yes, medical science would not work without the fact that medical science works is that it's a miracle in itself. And until we stop that, until we draw the line, you know, Mariam was saying that there's this invisible line, like if you go to the hospital, it means you don't trust God. If you trust God, you will not go. That line should not exist in people's minds.
Many Christians have accepted the fact that if I go to the church and I trust God, if it doesn't happen here,
go to the hospital.
it's okay, I'm fine. Whatever happens to me there.
There is wisdom. You will not by yourself. Jesus, in tempting Jesus, they did not say Jesus should. The devil said Jesus should jump down. The angels will catch him when he jumps down. Of course, the angels can catch Jesus when he came down, but he wouldn't tempt God. So it's like you deliberately tempting God and saying, I know I am sick. There is a condition that is going on. I will refuse medical help because I want to just trust God. That's tempting God. For me, I have been in a situation where they told me, and you don't do anything. Oh, your PCV is very low. You are expecting twins. You are going to have blood transfusion. I saw the PVC. I knew I had a month before my pregnancy. Beetroot, vegetables, ugu. I was drinking ugu in the morning, beetroot in the afternoon. I did all of that. 2 weeks after, I went to check. It had improved. So I took intelligent steps that God has provided for science. And I didn't have to get blood transfusion. I did the work. And if by a week before giving birth,
that's not a miracle.
my blood was still... It's still a miracle because it worked for me.
That's not a miracle. I know we would like to say, but that's not the miracle. Because in explaining science to be miracle, right? Yeah. It's politically correct. It's good. It's Christianly correct. It makes us feel good. But the way miracles are explained is that it defies logic. It defies rationality. It does not make sense. It should not have happened. You know, you look up, you look down, and it's just hanging in the air. How did this happen? So that's a miracle. Yes. So that's a miracle. So when we say, so for many Christians, like when you now explain science as a miracle, then you are taking away from that
power.
Do something in my life that will shock me. When we talk about miracles, that's not what we say.
Yeah.
Something so amazing that the world will be in awe. Like, how did this happen?
They should just.
But that cannot be for everybody now.
That would be a miracle.
Jesus did not heal all the sick people during his time.
Let me take Toby from the UK. Good morning, Toby. Are you there? Oh, Sugar, I'm so sorry about
Let's
that.
get rid of NNPC.
Emmanuel here
Going
says,
with water.
Let's take a few more comments.
Emmanuel says there's a clear correlation between religion and poverty and underdevelopment. Here, it is the opium that far too many here have overdosed on. Religion is easy to sell as there's no burden of proof anywhere. Imagine making all sorts of illogical claims without having to prove anything.
Let me take this. Corey Michael says, do you know how many gullible people have died because of pastors? Many women have lost their lives during labor. The doctor will advise them to for cesarean surgery that is needed, and they will say no. Another person said it's financial. And I'll just say this. I know someone that just gave birth recently, and they had to do CS. It was last minute, and they were praying, but the prayer was because it was going to cost them 350,000 naira to pay for the CS, and they didn't have it because they were praying and hoping for natural vaginal birth. But they had to do the CS because the baby would have died without that CS. And so the prayer was not out of, I want a miracle. It's the fact that I cannot afford this option.
So my church, for example, RCCG, we have like little hospitals. Even there was one in Ketu here, where it's very affordable because they realized that people were bringing their babies. I mean, when I was pregnant with twins, I was getting advice. You should go and give birth in camp. Go and give birth in camp. And they expect, so they have to start creating special hospitals for people like that because people just want to believe that when I'm on that campground, though, that's where I would not need a CS, that God would let these babies come out like the Hebrew women. So again, churches also have tried to help build small hospitals to accommodate these people. But the truth is that we must educate people. That there's nothing wrong in having faith. However, you must also know that medical science is available to you. And I think however, if you insist that you're trusting God wholeheartedly, then for people should respect you accept the
God's will for you.
Yes. And you accept it.
Yes. So the faith is not that this is what I want and exactly as I want it, God will do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to say, okay, beyond what I want, may your will be done. Simple. Are we ready for may your will be done? That's
whichever way it goes.
Sunday for Malagbado, you're live. Go ahead, please. Oh, I'm so sorry for keeping you.
Tolu says, let's not forget God puts physical and spiritual laws in place. Miracle is suspending those physical laws. Hence, miracle is at God's discretion, not at your plea, not at your begging, not at the level of your faith. So people have, they have little faith. Bible said, even Jesus said, as little as a mustard seed, you can make miracles happen. So you'll be wondering why some people have this huge faith and total submission to God, and then they lose their lives or they lose their child and they lose some things. Okay. It's at God's discretion.
Let me wrap up on this so that we can move on to another topic. But I think BC was saying, there's a comment from BC there. Okay. But I think in a nutshell, the point is, either way, medical science is there for us. And if you're trusting faith, like you want to say something?
I just wanted to give you the meaning of miracle. An extraordinary event taken as a sign of the supernatural power of God. An extremely outstanding or unusual event, thing, or accomplishment. And
in Jesus' times, the medical science we have, the surgeries we have seen will be seen as a serious miracle. For them, it defies all possibilities because their mind hasn't expanded to the point that you can have a CS.
Yeah. I know we have to go. Let me give you one example of that. We used to have a farm where we keep cattle, and my grandma was at home. Then phones had just come in, so we went to the farm. We took a video of us on the farm. I showed my grandma. My grandma was like, this tiny thing. This tiny thing took this video and you brought it and I can see exactly what you did. It blew her mind. She could not understand it. But she did not say God is wonderful. She was like, oh, Turawa, as in white people. These white people are amazing.
In fact, I need to dig up a video. Momo is 90, she's going to be 98 this year. Momo traveled, when she was I think 92 or when she was 92 years or something. And she was entering the place like, when you both right. When you both right. That's what she was saying to Shelana. When you both right. But her mind was just blown. She went back. She traveled alone in the plane by herself. She couldn't speak a word of English. We had to hand her over to the air hostess to take her. So she landed in Michigan. But the point is that, listen, as the time goes, miracles, what is a miracle to us now will be normal to our great-grandchildren. Like, to them, it's like, you can see mommy's in London, and she's sitting right here in front of me. It's okay, it's normal for them. But for us, it's still a miracle.
To walk to America.
Exactly, that time.
Another 100 years.
That is all we can take on this topic. Let us drop it. Because we have agreed that this is a very difficult...
That miracle should come now.
Can I wrap up?
Sorry.
Wrap up.
I know, she said
I
you can
think
eat
we need
anything
to-
and lose weight. That miracle.
Hallelujah.
We want that miracle.
Okay, I'm told I have one final call. I wanted to do a topic, but go ahead. Good morning. Are you there?
Hi, good morning.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
Welcome to the show. You like bright and happy
Hi.
colors. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, it's a pleasure getting through today. Okay, I went talking about miracles. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Talking about miracles. I've got a miracle that happened with me. My first child was by fear. By the time I was 10 months later, I had an ectopic that went so wrong that for about a year, I couldn't actually have contact with my husband. It was really bad. And then trusting God for baby, sometime in 2016, I got pregnant. I was actually not expecting it, but it happened. So I remember going to camp in August of that year, with heavy pregnancy and with prayers and all that. And behold, I was still waiting. And remember, my case was a case even right from, because my first day, ectopic happened while I was in the UK. So my case was a case of when coming back to Nigeria, it was in my record that I couldn't have natural birth. But I remember going into the into the labor room, and I had my auntie with me. And the doctor was telling me, "Madam, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the theater." And I just had my auntie shout, "Abby, you can do this." And all I said was, "God, I just need that mustard seed faith." And in less than 30 minutes, my son came forth. So I want to say, yes, there are miracles. But, it's a miracle to even have science work for us. Thank you very much.
I just got a message here. In fact, I'm not sure we can wrap up this topic because more messages are coming in. I have a message here for saying that my aunt was saying that her son had cancer, brain cancer, and she took her son to the pastor. He laid his hands on her, on the young boy, and the cancer disappeared. These are real life stories, though, not made up. It's not film trick. So that's why, and somebody sent me a message here, and I'm not sure he wants me to mention his name. He says, Mariah, miracle is where science ends and God begins.
I don't like when you put it that way. Do you understand? It's not where God begins, because God is in the fact that the science working for us. It does not matter. Because when we say that's where God begins, then we are invalidating everybody that believes and uses science procedures. But God is in everything. It is at God's discretion to use the spiritual. And it's at his discretion to allow you use the physical. And there are people that they would use that physical, and God is willingly smiling and permitting these physical laws to work for them. But when we say these statements, we make everybody that has pursued physical solutions, scientific solutions to their medical problem look like they did not have faith in God. And that is why people die.
You said that as a good Christian. Because there are atheists that
follow science laws
that
too.
follow science, and in fact they follow it because they don't want it to have anything to do with this God that you're talking about. And so sorry, let me just say, and so for some of people who have moved from the fact that they didn't believe in God to believing in God is they have used science didn't work for them until a miracle happened, and they're like, I've seen the science. It did not work. This can only be something and a power beyond science. So.
I remember too that my accident, I lost 6 inches. It crushed. The doctor told me, I will never have Dr. Cook in Princeton University Teaching Hospital, said, well, I'm not sure you can walk. No, he was the one that believed in me. The other doctor said that I will never walk again. They told me that because the amount of bone that crushed and they had to suck out of my right thigh was a lot. And they assured me that you can't, there's a strong possibility you cannot walk again. I was on wheelchair for months. But God used one doctor to tell me that he knows I'll walk again. And it took years for healing, to eventually walk. And when I remember the first time I took my first step, all my family were all excited for me. So miracles do happen. Science can, but God does things. God can defy all scientific logic to give you a miracle.
At his discretion.
At his own discretion. Yeah. Good morning, Wakil. Are you there? You're live. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick one. I just want to say 2 different things. The miracle and the faith or belief are quite different. Like as a Muslim, it becomes a sin. Even, if some people think because of your faith, I'm not allowed to drink alcohol, then you are ill, you'll be offered a medicine that contains alcohol. If you don't take it, it becomes a sin, even if you die. See, that's in Islamic faith. And my own miracle, I want to emphasize it. Sometimes when I believe miracle happens, people have been to hospital. Doctor give them, say, oh, it's only got or some hours to live. Then people themselves, for possibly someone pray or people pray or something, the miracle happens, somebody survived beyond that. That's all I want to.
I didn't hear everything. It was a bit muffled. Thank you very much, Wakil. So let's talk about children. It involves children, especially their dependents, and sometimes they don't get to make a decision. So, for example, your parents say, "Oh, we are part of this religion, and you cannot go for medical. You can't when there's an issue with you, we pray about it. We don't go to the hospital." And you start telling children that, because I've seen cases where kids are informed, are told that don't go to, we only pray and we trust God. That's what we do in this family. In that kind of situation where you're faced with a child refusing to take medication, can you call, you know how in abroad you can call the state, you can call government to come and to question the parents. But in Nigeria, Nima is not on the show today. Do we have laws protecting children where in this kind of situation, and what are your thoughts, in fact, that should we pass this on to our children? If it's our faith to believe that in this situation, God heals. And because we have that belief, our children too, at what point do we pass this on to kids?
So I think the children are 100% responsibility of their parents, mainly in Nigeria. In the US, all those other countries, children are ward of states, So the state takes ownership of the child. You are just a custodian of the child, and if the state feels you're not managing the child well, they can take the child away from you. That is not really, it might be legal, it might be the structure in terms of the books in Nigeria, but it's not the practical thing that we see. And I've heard of cases where a child has diabetes, and she was telling a nurse that we don't use drugs in my house. We don't use drugs in my house. We pray, and my daddy will lay hands on us and we'll be healed. And that is the upbringing they are giving this particular child. Now, would he have...
Was that wrong? It's because a family can believe and say that's our belief system, and it works for them.
So,
can somebody...
I'm in that space where I cannot... It's not my place to say what is right or wrong, but my hope is that we don't find ourselves in a case where that mindset leads to the death of someone in that situation. I think this person is from Apostolic Faith Church, and this church here, they don't use drugs, but they are big on eating healthy. They are big on lifestyle. They will tell you to take fruits. They make sure, like it's a culture within the church that you eat healthy. You are constantly doing things that create an environment that helps you to be strong, so that you don't fall ill to the point where you need drugs. So that's their own model of God has given us all the necessary herbs.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they don't. They use what do you call it? She was not even about turmeric, about the fact that ginger turmeric can help with reducing blood pressure. They know all the herbs that you can use to help, and it is something that is well circulated within the environment to ensure that our people don't fall that ill. But when we talk about the impact on the child's life, this is a full human being that God has given opportunity to do a whole lot of things on earth, and your decision to stay away from medical science might just be the reason they don't live. I don't think that's a wise decision, personally. But the parent is responsible for the child, and they're able to determine how the person will go ahead with their life.
I even refuse to believe that the parent is the owner of the child. You are still a custodian. It's a human being. A child is a human being. It's not, so you are given, God has given you that child. Better treat it with responsibility of a human being. Don't say because God has said, can you call? Then they have given you that thing to look after. If they didn't give you...
Well, the child can go to school.
Okay.
And
let
get
me take this call. Come to you, Mariam.
But
Michael from Lagos Island. Good morning, Michael. You there?
Good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
There's a story I want to tell that has to do with something like this. There's this man where I was living one certain time. He was sick. So in the morning, I think he was fighting in his drink from what we gathered. In the morning, when he woke up, we tried to rush him to the hospital. His elder brother came. We had already taken him out. His elder brother came, chased everybody, and threatened to lock anybody who was involved with his brother. Carried his brother back into the room and was praying.
for almost 6 hours. After he was done praying, he came out. The man had already died. His fist was clenched up. And he just walked out and said, "We should come and carry dead body and bury it." So the thing is, it is not wrong believing in God. If there's a way you can make good, go to church, pray. Meanwhile, you can come and pray in the hospital. The doctors are not telling you not to come and pray in the hospital. So
shouldn't that guy be prosecuted?
Yeah, they said he can be arrested. Somebody just
Well,
posted on...
the other brother, I don't know what happened to him after that.
Yeah.
Because he said he's his younger brother and he has every right to be his younger brother. He came and prayed at the end of the day.
Thank you, Michael. You see, I mean, as I said, we are evolving as a nation. All the countries we look up to have probably been through this phase where people, the witches are hanged and they perform exorcism. They've had that phase in their life where they believe in demons. But now they've evolved to a nation where the laws can protect you. So now maybe we're not there yet as a nation. So in this kind of situation, this man who went to take his brother and you're praying for him in the car, instead of taking him to the hospital, should be prosecuted.
Yes, I remember when my mom used to
work. Who allows their child to die in the house?
Yes.
Without taking the child to the hospital, should be prosecuted.
Yes. Exactly.
Because you are the custodian of that child, not the owner.
So I remember when my mom used to work in the hospital, one of her frustrations would be, you know, there's a certain group of Jehovah's Witness. I know that they don't believe in blood transfusion. And I remember, you know, a few times when it would really hurt her, like frustrate her. You know, for her, it was black and white. You know, you did not need to think too much about it to make the right decision. But also, she says, when you look at the people making the decision, or parents, it's not coming from a bad place. It's not because we hate our child and want our child to die. It's because of years and years of belief. And this religion has worked for us in so many other ways. Should we now abandon God now because we want to? So she says, you know, it's not like you're talking to someone who has decided to be negligent. You're talking to someone who believes in their faith and believes that if I make the mistake of going off my faith, I will lose my child. If I make a mistake of committing the sin against my faith, I would lose my child. So it's hard to then, yes, the law will go ahead and prosecute you no matter what your intentions are. But, you know, it's hard to call out people who are custodians or parents who you can see that this is being done out of love. And, you know, we're talking about evolution and the role that states should play. Yeah. Yes, we are at the point in time now where it seems that government is on the right side, which is make sure you vaccinate your children, make sure you give, you know, the immunization and everything. Government seems to have the right things in place. But we're also moving into another phase where people are saying, you know what, government is pushing us to give our children a lot of sugar. In our food, in everything we give our children, especially abroad now, they're having this conversation. The school lunches you give our children is not healthy. Our children are eating lots of sugar. I want to take my child out of school. We're going off-grid, where we're living out in nature, so that we protect our child from. And that parent who is doing the right thing now, logically, will be prosecuted. So how far do we want to go? How far do we want the state to go in handling our children's well-being?
Let me take this call. Abosede from Dr. Emu, you're live.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
All right. I really want to say this, that you cannot separate the two from each other. Miracle and, like, I will give you an instance. When I was pregnant of my second baby, I had a topic and I bleeded inside 5 gallons of blood. In fact, I left my office. I was supposed to leave my office 4 o'clock. And a guy walked in and told me, he said, I need to pay my bills. And my wife just put to bed, please help me. I didn't know where the guy came from. He just told me, please wait for me. Let me quickly go and get the bill. And I'll come back. And I was waiting for the guy. I was supposed to close and go home. In fact, that morning as I was leaving my house, my son was 1 year and 3 months. And so he was crying. I was so eager to go back home that day. And I was pregnant again. But because of that guy that told me, my wife just put it there, I needed to pay this bill. I'm traveling. If I don't pay this bill, they will disconnect my life. So I waited for the guy. And before I knew, my stomach started turning me. And before I knew, I was rushed to the hospital. And I was told in the hospital that it was God that saved me. Before I was taken to the hospital, it took me like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. The guy didn't come back. If I had not waited for the guy, I would have been in the box when that thing would have happened. But I was waiting for that guy. And I believe it was a miracle. Because for the guy that kept me in the office, I would have been inside the box, and that would have happened because by the time I got to the hospital, the doctor, there were 3 doctors that operated me. And they said the last doctor that came, who was a guy.
That was, I mean, that was an interesting story. Thank God for that delay. That's what saved her life. I mean, these are miracles that people.
So somebody is having stomach pain in schools. Children know they have stomach pain. They are laying hands on each other's stomach inside the school instead of going to seek medical help. You know this thing we're doing. And
it's a good culture to let a child know to pray.
I am a firm believer in prayer, but I also feel like many times we, in African context, in Nigerian context, we pray because, one, it is expensive to go to the hospital and we cannot afford it. Many people, that's the reality. Their faith is based on, I can't afford anything better. The person that used faith to move his car for 1 week was because he didn't have money. If he had money, my pastor says, don't pray for there to be light. Just simply buy fuel and switch a generator. There are things you shouldn't be bothering God about. If there is no light in your house, I'm praying God give us light. Buy a gen. Simply put the fuel. We use spirituality because poverty is so in our faces that we don't have a choice. People would see
let me give you this.
You start praying.
Let me give you this. Let me read this message. Somebody is saying that she and her husband were AS, and they trusted in God for children, and all their children are AS.
Okay.
I don't know how many children, but you see, that's another this genotype issue.
Yes.
It's another time where we actually activate our faith because you fall in love with somebody.
What about the ones that are AS and they too are faithful
and they had SS
and they have SS?
God's will.
And they prayed.
God's will.
God's will.
You see, that's God's discretion. Somebody asked me that, what is God's discretion?
God's will.
It's God's
So,
discretion.
but you see, so the two of you pray and believe that the children you would have will be AS.
Me and my husband
So I-
prayed
you
said my own prayer
before I
or
even
that
got
person's
pregnant.
prayer was not as
Sorry,
strong as
Named
one
the
second.
children before the child, we wanted twins, before we got pregnant, and yet I got pregnant and it was blighted over. We prayed. I prayed before. I joined Joyful Mothers and Fathers
Your
before I
prayer
even
was
got
not
pregnant.
enough.
My prayer
It
was
was your
very
prayer.
strong.
It was your prayer that gave you the twins eventually.
No.
But I'm
I think
saying,
the way
like,
we should look at it, now that we are all saying, I think the way we should look at this miracle is not by our prayer.
exactly.
It's not our righteousness.
It's God's
not,
discretion.
It's His will.
Full
I-
stop.
He that
and
willeth,
then-
or he that runneth.
No,
God
shows
that showeth
mercy.
mercy.
Yes, that's it.
Mary,
Because we can't explain it.
Over to you.
we have, Mary,
We have to
there
wrap
is
up.
nothing,
Yeah.
nobody
Just
deserves
be
the
wrapping
miracle.
Over to
And
me
some
if
people
you
you
are
think
sick.
they deserve. There are pastors' wives that I was with a pastor in Qatar, and he was talking about how Daddy Gio prayed. But daddies prayed. They laid hands, they did everything. They prayed. He's a pastor. His wife still died of cancer. It was God. It's not that they are not faithful. It's not the man. The woman is a wonderful, amazing
Someone
woman.
sent me a message now. The Pope is in the hospital right now as we speak.
So it's not about anything like that. It's just God's will. It just
But see,
chooses
sometimes
to have
I have
mercy
heard
on.
it's a web Daddy Joe himself said that somebody was sick, right? And God asked, they asked him to come and pray for them. This was many, many years ago. He prayed for the person, and as he was praying, the anointing was flowing, but he stopped.
He felt it.
He felt it.
That this is not
That
going
this
to
is not going to happen. That he kept praying, but the thing flowed, and it kept stopping at his ear. And he was wondering, what's going on? Because he doesn't know. So there's only so much a human being can do. It's God that has the healing. So you can't say, oh, it was a miracle that God did not heal you, or God. It's only God that can decide who should be healed or who cannot be healed.
My own is, if you are sick, go to the hospital.
Please.
Then, while you are in the hospital, all the people that want to pray,
That's how they
come
can
and
lay their
pray.
hand.
Yeah, they do it. They do it.
Come
now.
and pray. Then the doctors
Our
and the
Nigerian
nurses,
hospitals now feel the prayers. All the ward
you see
rooms.
all those ones, if left to me, I will drive them away.
Why?
Let my family come and pray for me. Your own work is to treat me with science,
Oh, yeah, of
not to
course.
pray for me.
Of course, yes.
And that's the mistake
Yeah.
that we make. Yeah, the nurse, what is your business with the prayer?
Even in the hospital,
You nurse.
doctor will tell you that where we are
not
right
to
now,
treat me.
please go and pray.
Yes,
Like, I
that
mean, Nigerian hospitals, they'll tell you,
Yes.
doctor will tell you, pay. There's only so much I can do.
Even abroad
There's only so
hospitals,
much I can
because
do.
they know faith helps. Because even they've done placebos. They've given people things that are like just
And it's the
sugar
faith-
pills.
yes, faith
and their
to get
faith
healed.
makes them get healed.
Yeah.
So even science relies on your faith. We all must believe that this thing is going to happen for it to happen. So there's that element. But the fact that we now suspend science and the proven skills that God has given doctors over the years, and we said that we're going to suspend, we're going to disbelieve all of this, we will not do this.
When my mother was sick, every day in a prayer, in the room next door, every day prayer, like that, everybody was just bringing their pastors and everybody, we're all just praying and trusting God. So I think both can work hand in hand.
Yes, and just like that too, we need to add what we've done with our cultural beliefs and our herbs and things like that, where we have demonized it.
Terrible.
It's time to look into it and find the knowledge that we have there and combine it with science and prayer.
That's
so that
why
we can even have a broader
I love that NAFDAC woman.
I have a concern with that, right?
Yeah.
I have a concern with that because it's not regulated. And sometimes those things can be a problem. So when you take, many poorer homes will take their family first to the herbalist, trusting. But there's issues where things get complicated.
So we shouldn't abandon them, we should empower them to do more,
now
to
is the
research
time
more.
Instead of demonizing them and just throwing them and leaving them for only the poor people, let us take them into the classrooms. Let's take them into research.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I believe in them. That's why I didn't catch Koro. And if I caught, nothing happened to me because I was taking Agbo.
See, okay.
Like I was not catching the hospital. Any God forbid they are sick.
She will never be sick.
God
Why
forbid.
is wrong?
Amen. But, I don't pray to be ill, but I will go to if I'm very ill and I don't pray to be ill, I will go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I will go.
I think that is all we can take. Are there any fantastic
And I'm not saying I won't use herbs. I will use
People
herbs.
are saying that I shouldn't have used discretion. I should say God's will. So God's discretion, God's will. Okay, God's will.
Yeah.